which will focus on unlocking productivity by developing self-sustaining work, live, play ecosystems. I believe as part of the panel, we've got, the leaders in, work, live, play developments in the West African region. So we're looking forward to the session. Moderating the session is Olawunmi Olashore, Head Premier Markets Lagos, Jida Taiwo and Co. And the panelists for the session is Odunayo Ojo, CEO Alara City, Chinju Udora, Manager Business Development Lagos Free Zone, Francois Breedenkamp, Director, Bucherman and Partners Architects, and Paulo Cruz, the CEO of Land of Greek Nigeria. So excellent panel lined up, and we look forward to the session. Olawunmi, I will hand over to you. Thanks.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I think we're still missing Mr. Dwyer, though. I'm not sure he's here yet. Oh, he's just coming in now. Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Good. Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good to meet you, Mr. Paulo. I think you're the one I haven't met until now. It's good to meet you. I'll say we should go right into it. And Chinju, I would like to start with you. Our topic is what it is: live, work, play ecosystems and unlocking the productivity there. So Chinju, why did you choose working in live, work, play ecosystems?
Right. Thanks, Ola, for the question. Thinking about live, work, play environments, specifically with Lagos Free Zone, the initial appeal was actually the nature of the project itself, just seeing how much national importance and interest that it had, specifically because of some of the marquee projects that are located within the zone. So I'm actually speaking about Lekki Deep Sea Port, which is currently under construction and is going to be the deepest seaport in Nigeria. So obviously now having joined the project and having learned a lot more about it, it's really interesting to see how we're using the whole template of sustainable workplace ecosystems to solve some of the pertinent issues that exist in the manufacturing sector in Nigeria. So issues like your logistics solutions, your power challenges, housing, and low productivity levels. So these are some of the challenges that we're tackling with the ecosystem in our industrial park, and the solutions to these have been built in to our development program. So that's, apart from what drew me in at the first point, that's what's keeping me working in this ecosystem.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you have said what's keeping you there. Mr. Dwyer, you can see that I'm coming for you next because you're pretty close. You're like neighbors. So what's keeping you there?
So thank you very much for that question. One of the greatest challenges that we face in this part of the world is the quality of life that people live. I often talk about when people go to other parts of the world and they come back, they bring back stories about how everything works, how you can get from one place to another, how you have everything kind of functioning as one ecosystem. And there's no reason why we can't have that kind of experience in Nigeria as well. And that's why, having sustainable environments, places where you can live, you can work, your kids can go to good schools, in close proximity becomes very, very important. And where you have a place like Lagos, where, depending on who is counting, between 18 to 21 million people, it becomes even more important to have a sustainable living, working, and staying environment, just because of the ills of traffic congestion, the ills of even health and safety, security, and so on. So I guess we'll delve more into this during the course of the session, but that was a key attraction for me, really, to find a way to improve the quality of life generally. Thank you.
I think this is something that we all can definitely agree on. Mr. Paulo, you're a player in one of the first live, work, play templates in Nigeria. I was going to say, what drew you there as well?
Thank you for that, Olawunmi. It's interesting because you mentioned earlier that this was going to be the icebreaker question.
Yes.
And in fact, Land Afrique was the icebreaker with this concept in the last century in Africa. They started all off with a vision from the the late father from the existing chairman, where he had a dream. A dream. It almost sounds like someone from the United States, but that's not what I'm trying to refer to. But he had a dream to create a satellite city with an industrial zone to create employment, living all together with great accessibilities. And this was something that started in the early 70s. So this has already being rolled out and put into practice over the last couple of decades. Yes, we were pioneers on that front, but like everything, we need to reinvent ourselves and keep ourselves on the map. The Agbara and Ogun Industrial Zone is West Africa's #1 industrial zone, and we're very proud that Agbara Estate was the founder of that, and we continue to build upon that in the work. And I start with work, not with life, but it's because it all starts with employment, so that people can have income. Income means possibility to have housing, access to education, health, etc. And that's how we see the concept. It's for us work, live, education, health, and leisure.
Thank you, Mr. Francois, the architect in this.
Sorry, I would like to add one small thing, and this is the bridge for Francois. Everything is cyclical. We know that. We're now talking today about the president-elect of the United States. But with all due respect, who was in the United States 300 years ago? Which were the ruling master plan cities from the kingdoms back in the days 3,000 years ago? It was here in Africa. It was in Southern America. And I would like to say that everything is cyclical. Even today we're having a short-term issue with something that's called COVID. Yes, it's terrible, but it's short-term. Real estate, and even more master planning real estate, you're in it for the long run. And with this, I would like to bridge to Francois, because this already gives him a little bit more of context.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I think the one thing from a design point of view, I think, and it is a very interesting comment from your side, Paulo, because I think, as an urban designer, you have to have a kind of a long distance kind of running approach to it, because it's something that takes a long time. It goes through cycles. And sometimes, most of the things I'll be designing now, I'll never live to see it actually happening. And it's the scale of time and the effect of time on these kind of visions and master plans. And even like you say, something like COVID is something that really built resilience in communities and obviously manifests in some sort of urban form. But I think in that sense, coming back to the kind of starting question about sustainability and green cities, I think it's a natural kind of evolution of where we need to go to. And if you do look back at the cities in Africa centuries ago, they're very in balance with nature, for instance, if you want to see it like that. And I think in the current scenario, I think we're really trying to strive to get back to that balance in some sort of way. Obviously, a lot of things has happened. We've had a massive kind of technological advantage over our predecessors. And I think that's actually the interesting thing for me, is how people evolve themselves and what do they see as a green eco city, and what will the aspirations be for that.
Thank you very much. A lot has already been said, clear doses of the current pandemic, and I just have to build on that. I think we can all appreciate the fact that we spend most of this year at home, socially distant, and having to manage it in our most micro version of our homes, where we have to live, work, and play in our homes. But we've had a lot. Almost every day we hear of a new vaccine. Someone has discovered a new vaccine. Someone's out. The stock market is building on that. But the WHO keeps coming back to say that even after the vaccine, we will still continue to wear masks. We will still continue to maintain a socially distanced lifestyle. And Mr. Odwaya, I'm coming back to you. How has that affected your thoughts towards your new community?
So I think it's safe to say that COVID-19 has had more than just a short-term effect on the way people would live and the way people would work going forward. A lot of companies are beginning to look into the future. A lot of businesses are also trying to see how business continuity plans can be set in place as a result of the pandemic. The technologies to allow people to live and work in the same space are becoming more and more sophisticated. And that is going to continue to promote, I think, the evolution of the sustainable way of living. I think, as Paulo has said, 1,000 years ago, this wasn't how we used to live. And I believe in the next even 10 to 15 years from today, we're going to be doing things completely differently. And in my view, a significant portion of this is the way in which we conduct our lives. What do we do on a regular basis? Okay, we wake up in the morning. If you've got kids, you sort them out about school runs and whatever, and you find your way to work. And then you spend most of your time at work, and then you come back home, and then you sleep. That whole cycle is being redefined even as we speak due to a lot of factors. And this is what I think those communities tend to enable, and accelerate an integration of those compartments of our lives into one for better integration and, like I said before, better quality of life.
Thank you. Chinju, do you want to build on that, on this new balance we need to find based on your project?
Yeah, I mean, just listening to Mr. Alginayo's response, I was even thinking about how tech companies are obviously taking the lead right now and making a lot of their roles remote. So people like Facebook have made a majority of their roles accessible remotely. And this isn't just for when the pandemic, this isn't just for when there's a vaccine and when the pandemic eventually dies down. This is going forward for the future for as long as we can see. So looking at live, work, play environments and how this could potentially change the nature of this, I think because the basic need for these environments is to improve the quality of life and also to increase the productivity quotient. As long as this continues, it will continue to be built into future projects. And the way that that's done, while it might change, will definitely still be a priority.
Mr. Paulo, you've been here for a while. How this changed, adjust? How are you adjusting to this new lifestyle before?
Well, to be controversial, we're not.
Okay.
It has a short-term effect on what we're doing. We're now all today, instead of being like Kafir likes to use, likes to have us in Johannesburg, in Sandton or something like that. We're all now sitting here behind our cameras, and sometimes it can be stressing. Sometimes there can be a dog that's barking, a kid that's yelling and coming into the room. It's a new paradigm, but this is also not new. Zoom meetings, Skypes, etc., like Chinju were just mentioning, it already existed. The only difference is that COVID has accelerated what was already in place. So on the short term, yes, it has some limitations, but on the long term, for us, it has been a confirmation that what we were planning, what we were designing, what our beliefs were, that they were right, and COVID has only confirmed the way that we are acting and the way that we are rolling out our pipeline. And with that, it's interesting to say that because we have an existing and operating scheme, we need to reinvent ourselves. And in that perspective, we're putting up our own 50 megawatt power plant. We're going also into photovoltaic plants with a first phase of 4 megawatts. At the moment, there is an RFP going, and the telecom companies, they know it, for fiber over the entire 454 hectares of Agbara estate. And we're building upon the repavement of the roads within. Even yesterday, there was organized by Stanbic a webinar for the stakeholders of Agbara Industrial Zone, where this was highlighted, and even one of the main tenants came to us and mentioned something very interesting, which has to do with the management of all of this. One thing is design, and the construction can be very good, but the other thing is management and the operation of it. Last but not least, two last points. And this is not from the master plan point of view, but from the homes point of view. They will need to be slightly adapted to this new context. And this is for me probably the most critical point. It's not the design of the master plans of the houses, but it's of the process. The processes need to be different. We need to think more local. More local means not only made in Africa or made in Nigeria in this case here, but it also means that we're creating, again, employment, which is the first driver of our concept. It also means that we're reducing carbon footprints. And last but not least, we're reducing something that we all have our headaches with. That's the dependency of Forex. And I'll bring this now over to Francois then.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think we've mentioned quite a few things here, and I think from an urban design point of view, again, I'm quite interested in the COVID pandemic. It's been quite traumatic, and I think in a worldwide sense. I think that way, I'm quite interested in the residue of what will happen next year, the year after, and if we do go back to certain ways we kind of worked before, because I do think there is a social cohesion that's needed in communities, and maybe, like Paolo was saying, maybe it's more localized in some sort of way. Obviously, there's a residue of technological advancement. I mean, Zoom meetings and those things suddenly is quite normal. But I think I'm quite interested in the balance between that and the hybrid solutions for that. In our projects, especially on the residential side, in how we've involved apartments, for instance, we have a bit of a co-working space at home of sorts, or a kind of private space. It's not ideal for everybody, so that's why I'm saying it's going to be quite interesting. But that residue, and also the idea of breaking the 8 to 5, I think for us personally as a firm, you can see how that flexibility really changes how we approach space, how much space we need, and I think there's a bit of re-engineering which I'm quite excited about.
Thank you. So my next question is, I wouldn't say I'm a product of, but I have lived in a live, work, play ecosystem before. I've lived in Agbara. My parents had moved there when I was much younger, between the age of 6 and 14. I have lived there. So I have experienced this live, work, play ecosystem. My school was in there. It was Corona. Corona was the school there, and then it moved to the secondary school. And then the primary school became the feeders to the secondary school, and we had healthcare. You could walk everywhere. So I have lived there. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and that's why I applaud all of you for working on live, work, play ecosystems, because they work, they thrive. Families thrive in there. Parents have the sense of safety. My child is here. Everything is there. I can just concentrate on that. But what I did find, though, was as Agbara continued to grow, as the neighboring areas continued to grow, our parents that would probably take an hour to get to work and back became 5 hours, it became 6 hours, it became, we have to move. So that brings this issue, but I would like to start with Mr. Paolo, because you'll be able to give us an update on what has happened so far, and then Mr. Oduayo and Chinju can tell us what their plans are to avoid this kind of things happening before them.
Yes, and I can see from the smile on your face and from the passion you're talking about it, it was a very good period of your life. Let me first start off with, yes, there are some constraints, accessibility constraints at the moment, but those are not only exclusive to Agbara. We all see that that the bridges are constantly having problems, are closed and being maintenance also closed for partially, etc., etc. So it's something that's not only exclusive to Agbara. So changes occur over time, and yes, over this last 4 decades, there has been some ups and downs. But I'm also very pleased to say that we're currently working very closely with both the Ogun, Lagos, and federal government to improve the accessibilities in and around Agbara and Ogun and Lagos. And that said, we're going to disclose next week, but I'm going to give already a premiere here, that we've signed an MOU with a very large consortium to be proactive in solving the infrastructure problems in Ogun. So that to start off with. Number two, we've done therefore our own assessments of those expressways, Lagos, Badagry, Akbara, Atan, and going further up to Ibadan. So we know exactly what the state is. So on the contrary, as from the previous session from Mr. Joffrey, he mentioned that things take so long here in Africa to take place. My experience from Africa is that there are two modalities. Yes, it can take a very long time, but it can also go very rapidly. There's no in between here in Africa. So if all the stars are aligned, it can happen. And this is again a reference back to Yes, I Can from Mr. Obama almost. But I would also like to say that within Akbara, we're currently working, as I mentioned, on revamping the place up, our own power plants, but we also now have a next phase with over 2,100 homes in it, low to mid-class incomes. And this is our direct pipeline. And saying this, we're foreseeing that with this new reinvented Akbara 2.0, we're foreseeing that the families will not leave Akbara, but it will even attract families back to Akbara, and we're hoping to see you back soon, Olabomi.
Akbara will always be somewhere that's close to my heart, but I'm very excited about the breaking news exclusive that we have on this end of your infrastructure. So we're very excited to have this breaking first. If you heard it first, hear us, so we're excited. Mr. Dwyer, what are your plans?
Okay, so I would like to say that one of the reasons why these schemes may not work is dependent on a few factors. The first is the size, okay? The size of these live, work, play environments have to be such that they are sizable to accommodate a wide variety of users. Just in terms of the practicality of the city, they have to be cities in their own rights. So if you have a situation where people have to leave the community to go to work, like it happened in the case of Akbara during the period, some people had to work at Victoria Island, or had to work at Apapa, or had to work at Ikeja in order to meet some of their livelihoods, then the infrastructure challenge may get in the way. So for the sustainable cities to work, they have to be robust enough to accommodate a wide variety of users. Now, the ideal situation is for almost everything you need to happen within, a 5-10 minute radius from your house, including where you work, where your kids go to school. You will have to have areas for entertainment, because everybody have to consume these things. You have to have areas for retail. If you want to buy bread, milk, you shouldn't have to leave the community to drive down to another community to enjoy these things. And that's what we've tried to do at Alaro City, where it's being designed and implemented as a mixed-use, mixed-income community with a wide variety of users. Even though it exists within the Lekki Free Zone, which is predominantly industrial, like we had the Akbara Industrial Estate, there are opportunities for commercial centers. So there's a CBD within there, where you're going to have financial services, where you're going to have the banks, and you're going to have insurance and other kind of uses. So if you play in that sector and you live in Alaro City, you should be able to find your livelihood just within the radius around your house. Also, in terms of healthcare, there are allowances for both primary, secondary, and even tertiary healthcare systems, where you can have a primary care, you have maternity, you can have a dental, all those things that you need to exist within that environment you should have. The same thing with other uses such as entertainment. Entertainment is very, very big in Nigeria, as you know now. It's a young population, and everybody needs to find an escape. So either you want to go to the movies, or you want to go to the malls, or you want to go to a park, there has to be something for everyone within the city. And that's what we're trying to emulate at Alaro City. Now, just looking into the future, I think a few of the infrastructure interventions would help. As Paulo has said, even along the Lekki Expressway, as Chinju has said, there's a lot of infrastructure developments going on. The port is going on. There's going to be an airport, nearby. The roads are being expanded. All these things help with the connectivity, because human beings, we are social beings. There will still be a need to leave your community. You can't exist as an island. Okay, so that is going to help. And lastly, technology is going to play a very vital role in the future. Whereas, when, you were living at Agbara, it wasn't very, very common for people to jump on a call and have their meetings from their bedrooms. In the future, even when people work outside of the community, they can still be able to connect and just have to, they are more flexible, hours of work. The world is a different place right now, and all these technologies will make this live, work, play, sustainable environments more successful in the future, in my view. Thank you.
Thank you. Chinju, do you want to tell us much more about your plans for Lagos region?
Yes, so Mr. Odunaya definitely hit the nail on the head. It's really important that whoever is living within the free zone and working there has the amenities that they need to support the rest of their life. So this includes your medical, your hospitality needs, your leisure activities as well. And specifically for Lagos Free Zone, in terms of our development and our planning, we've allocated about 30% of the zone to these support services and leisure activities and green spaces, so that you can work, you can live, and you can have a better quality of life. And also, even if your family is there 5 days a week or 7 days a week, then you have that space and you have that green air to take a break, to take a walk, and to distress. And ultimately, we believe that this will keep people within the community, but then also if they must go out, then the infrastructure is available for them in terms of the roads and the connectivity to reach other major city centers. Just to highlight why this is super important, you definitely started this question with the whole thing about commute. We definitely know how much people spend time in traffic, especially in emerging communities. Not just the government losing out with, it's reported that Lagos State actually loses about 42 billion Naira since 2018 every year due to traffic jams. And then the company obviously loses out on the productivity of their workers. And the workers themselves spend over 75% of their working weeks in traffic. To summarize, it's a madness. So it is important that once you have an enabling environment for business that attracts your investors and your enterprises, you have the quality residential housing to keep them there. And of course, the support services that they also need to improve the rest of their life.
Thank you. So Francois, I'm coming for you, but with something a bit different. We have Land of Frick, we have Lagos Free Zone, we have Alaro City here. Now, I want to bring up this build and they will come mantra. Is this the reality, build and they will come? Or what do you think needs to be added beyond these amenities and infrastructure that we've talked about?
Yeah, I think it's always a challenge, and I think these things you should have a look. You spoke about yourself and Agbara being a process of probably 30, 40 years, and it takes time for these cities to settle. I don't think that it's an instant solution per se. Even if you look at cities like Dubai, when I went there 20, 30 years ago, it was really kind of a kind of challenging place from an design point of view. But over time, it's really kind of developed into a place. Let's call it that. But it takes time, it takes people, all those kind of things. I think this question kind of tags onto the previous question a little bit. But I think obviously living locally is the reality of big metropole cities, which obviously Lagos is one of those examples. But I think what's quite interesting is you don't live in a bubble, you don't live in isolation. It's the connectivity between these nodes, and a city like Lagos and like Johannesburg, for instance, it's all polycentric, and you'll have these kind of smallest kind of nodes in between. They all kind of talk to one another and support one another, because some of these zones might be more residential, some might be industrial, commercial, whatever the case is. But there's going to be a nuances between them, and I think to really overlap economic systems is quite important as well. And I think Paulo spoke about introducing low to mid income housing, which I think is a very important aspect of really creating sustainable kind of interface between different income groups and within a community, because that's actually what makes a city. It's all of us in one thing. I think in that sense it's actually a challenge, but I think cities evolve in many different ways, and currently we have a lot of free zones and smart cities and green cities. There's a lot of kind of RFIs and RFPs that I'm involved in specifically in that, and normally these cities are located on the outskirts because of availability of land and all of that. But in the long run, those isolated kind of place, how do they connect back to the city center, to the heart of Lagos or to the heart of Dakar? And I think the challenge we have currently in Africa is that we're growing so quickly, we just, the infrastructure just couldn't keep up. Okay, and that's actually in a way a normal manifestation of economic growth and how people evolve their life. And I think at the moment, I think that days of building roads are really kind of over. We'll have to find some sort of other way to connect, either via technology or using some sort of other transport system. And I think if you think about cities like Hong Kong or from the 80s, which is really kind of high density, hyper density cities, actually, the mode of transport is not a car. So you have to find a different solution for that, and maybe there's a hyperloop idea we can maybe plug into in future. But I think those are really the solutions for that, because I think connectivity is very important, but living locally, obviously we have to solve those challenges, and each of these communities will have their own character and identity in some sort of way, because you need a place, you need to belong to something and to people around you.
Thank you. Paulo, you built and they came. I think that's the perspective I'm going for with you. You built and they came. How are you going to keep them there?
Well, it's caring. We are caretakers. As I mentioned earlier, one thing is a nice design. The other thing is a very good construction. But last but not least, and this is for us the key success factor in all of this, is the operation. How do you take care of the people that live within your community, within your master plan? So you need to constantly be with them, be together with all the stakeholders, reinvent yourself. Reinvent today means, yes, going sustainable, going green, having redundant utility setup. We continue to be challenged by the utilities every day. In fact, I'm hoping that that the power doesn't go out as we speak. So that's a very important part of it. Coming back to the beginning, it all starts with employment. So employment gives income, and therefore it's for us work, live, education, health, leisure. And that we've been doing for the last 4 decades. And that means a long-term commitment, and that we're here for the long run, and we're here to stay. It's a proven concept. We were the founders of currently West Africa's #1 industrial hub. And we are here to continue that dream. And once again, we have our company divided in several sub-companies, and one of them is for development. The other one is for asset and property management, both for the master plan as well as for some of our clients, as well as for the future infrastructure projects that we're going to be involved with. Everything needs to be maintained. Everything needs to be taken care of. We are the caretakers.
Chinju, I would love to hear your thoughts on this, mainly because you're starting. You understand why you have so much possibilities in your area. So 25 years from now, what would it look
like? Sorry, Ola, could you repeat the question?
I said 25 years from now, what would your new community look like?
25 years from now, Lagos Free Zone is going to be a leading industrial hub in the West African region. providing services in your industrial clusters, for your logistics services, obviously driven by the port operations, and also for your real estate sector, where the whole live aspect of the development comes in. So with your housing and your support services as well. So it's going to be home to your top multinationals, your premier servicing companies. And of course, these companies are going to be attracted by the fact that we have a stable framework for the fiscal and policy benefits that they stand to benefit from. And this, of course, isn't something that we can provide on our own as a private sector company. It definitely takes the support of the federal government of Nigeria that provides these benefits. And we continue to lean on the government to make sure that these benefits are sustained over time, not just today, not 10 years ago, but also in the next 25, 50 years, and that we continue to improve on these benefits to bring in the members of our community that we have and that we're going to continue to grow.
Mr. Dwyer, the floor is yours.
All right. 25 years from now, Alaro City will be the most premium place to live in Lagos, full stop. And how do we want to ensure that? Just by way of context, Alaro City is one of the many cities that Rendeavor is building. Rendeavor is the largest new city builder on the African continent today, with projects in Kenya, Zambia, DRC, Ghana, and Nigeria. And what we've experienced, across all our markets is that cities are like living beings. They need to grow organically, okay? As Francois has already said, these cities need to evolve naturally, and you need to follow the market. You can't just plan a city for the future. The city needs to grow into the future. And how we achieve this is by making sure that we stay connected with our different markets. So for the industrial clients of ours, logistic clients, we are in a free zone. So all those benefits are there to attract them to do their business in a more efficient way. So Paulo talked about the ease of doing business, and all the other things that need to happen need to be brought on board in order to make sure that the city continues to grow in the right direction. And of course, for the homes and for the entertainment and everything that needs to happen, this needs to be organic and needs to speak to the needs of the market. That's the only way we can sustain these cities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dwyer. Mr. Francois, my last question is for you, and it's something that I think you will be giving them some secrets behind. I have done a bit of research about your company, and I know that you have built the headquarters of Facebook and Google. Now, if these people were coming to these cities, what Land Africa is doing, what Lagos Region is doing, what Alaro City is doing, what would you recommend that they do in addition to what they have already planned to do or already have?
Yes, I think we're actually busy with Google offices in West Africa. Hopefully we'll be done middle next year. So it does take time sometimes, but I think it's a lot of challenges. I think what happens with companies like Google or Facebook is really that, they live in a very different world, different technology. I mean, they all come from Cupertino in a way in California, which really was built on Silicon Valley kind of technology and all of that. So those kind of communities are really used to kind of living in low density kind of grid kind of environments, and they easily fit into that in a lot of different ways. And the question is for those companies, do you actually just stay this remote kind of space in cyberspace, or do you actually physically interact in some sort of way? And I really think it's a hybrid. I think the young up and coming entrepreneurial companies, which I think there's many of in Africa, which I'm really excited about, actually have the opportunity to be a hybrid, be both, because I do think physical interaction, and in my experience doing business in Africa, I think having a physical meeting with someone sometimes really builds a lot of different trusts and things that you don't really pick up in a Zoom meeting, for instance. So I really think there's a need for that. The rest of it, I think, as to speed of communication, I think there's lots of technological solutions for that. And I think you'll see a lot of hybrids where people have a local community, but they also have a digital community, which I think kind of talks to all the technological things that we are looking at. And I think spatially we need to create places either outside or inside to accommodate those kind of Zoom interfaces, for instance, because you'd be quite surprised. It's actually quite difficult finding an ideal Zoom environment, for instance, for someone to do business or to communicate with someone in the digital and real. So I think those kind of nuances, I think, we're seeing happening. But yes, it is still a need for a physical manifestation of opinion. I think to be safe, I would say it's a 50-50 hybrid for us to see how we can interface and kind of cater for those kind of environments.
Okay.
Very much for that. I think round of three, Lagos Free Zone and LRCC have taken those kind of businesses to theirs. I am really enjoying it because I mean, I have been a part of the workplace environment my favorite years, and most people who would, the generations to come, leave those environments are going to really enjoy it. So I'm really glad that you're all working on them. I wish you guys all the best in all that you're doing. Mr. Francois, to see your designs coming up all around Nigeria, and we wish you all the best. We're very grateful for you to be here, and thank you for such a discussion. I know that there's a different, like a mix of audiences who have really wanted to ask these questions that we have answered, and I hope to see them buying into your community. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.